Okay, David here. Um, it's the last week of the summer, small crowd. Next week, school will be back in season, should be a big crowd. Just do the final end of year thoughts, at least for the chess season. Been a long summer and ready to get back to work. Kids are going to come back next week from the school. So you got my flowers. Pretty good harvest. Had a lot of flowers this year, so make some flowers. Regular participants in the museum coming to play chess. So next week should be packed with kids starting the school year. So I try to summarize some of my thoughts. So I think I got my 1,000 subscribers, so I could go live now again. So if anyone's in the chat, feel free to comment. But so last summer I had my big debate with Jean-Francois Garepi on evolution, which was the catalyst for me to invest quite a bit of time into studying consciousness. Put a deep thought, deep study into consciousness, and anyone who saw my series of public study sessions. So this is just a chess club. Me, these two guys are volunteer coaches. I'm probably the strongest, about 2,000 ranked. Occasionally we bring in grandmasters or strong players to help out with the club. There's a few kids in the high school or junior high that are like A players, close to 2,000 strength, almost as good as I am, but the majority here is just teaching the absolute basics. So it's not a particularly strong club, although if you see my YouTube, we brought in Nakamura, and we've had some famous players that have came in and promoted the club. And so I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to go up to the Diego Rivera room. Yeah, I got Nakamura on my YouTube page. If you check out, you just search Duvid Nakamura. He came in, he did a simul here. He played all of our kids. He actually lost one game to one of our better players, so that was pretty good. Hopefully I'll keep reception here. I'm going to try to go upstairs to the Rivera Lounge and try to summarize like a year of thoughts on what's going on, because okay, yeah, so you get reception here. So I've been doing the chess coaching for almost 10 years and hadn't really thought too much about consciousness. I'd read, when I was younger, some of the basic reception problems trying to walk around the museum, and looks like reception's not quite that great everywhere. But sorry about that. Hopefully it's coming in clear now. I was just walking around. I figured I'd talk from the Rivera Murals Lounge. And, I was saying that I had been a chess player my whole life. And then when I got into consciousness studies, I started trying to connect the consciousness studies to chess. And trying to clarify my thoughts on consciousness coming from the soul, or however, what does it mean to think? What's the origin of thought? How do thought processes work? Is very complicated trying to understand from a neurological perspective or any perspective at all. But through years of chess coaching, it seemed positive to have some sort of teaching process for kids, because I'm coaching championship level kids, got kids competing on a national, state level, and you're trying to connect thought progression, thought patterns with consciousness. So it's been over a year I've been thinking about this and studying. I've really stopped what I was doing for the whole year. I do a tiny bit of work just to pay my bills, but basically, I took a complete year off to return to my studies. Middle-aged man, 40 years old, but I said I'd take a whole year off and return to my studies. And you mentioned the music, so I mean, Prodigy, they usually exist in music, chess, and mathematics because they're essentially simple. They don't require large prerequisite knowledge, maybe for conducting or writing pieces. So every Friday night, the museum, my mother was the lawyer for the museum. We got the chess club here. But every Friday night they have a concert. So in like 2 hours, there'll be a string quartet, a three-piece band playing here. And I've posted some of that in the past, but this is a nice, pleasant room to sit and talk. So I'm trying to clarify my thoughts on pedagogy, chess, consciousness, the formation of thoughts. As next week the kids will be back, and there'll be more intensive coaching. Although actually during the summer there's more opportunity for intensive coaching because it's just a few kids that really want to learn. The school year starts, there'll be more, setting up pieces and setting people up for games and things like that with some coaching. Um, No, I don't follow this stuff, and I'm not a big IQ person. Personally, yeah, I'm a believer in the soul, and the idea that people could actually get more intelligent through hard work, as seen by my chess coaching, where we're able to take kids from Detroit and turn them into state champions, a nationally competitive chess team. That certain hard work, how the brain forms and processes patterns. And what I discovered from my weekly week in review stream, Church of Entropy, and I've seen Stanley Kubrick's movies, Full Metal Jacket, and some of the stuff when I was younger. I don't watch movies that much. I mean, I saw Kevin Michael Grace review of the book that his assistant wrote, but not too much thoughts on that. I'm not such a movie guy. I'm trying to focus more on consciousness, the heart problem, consciousness, thought formation. But the higher level understandings of the mechanical nature of how consciousness is formed had these concepts of the brain is largely a pattern recognition machine. That you have all this different sources of sensory input, and through the sensory input, the brain has some form of central vision in terms of one central form of consciousness that forms where a person has like this stage of consciousness. So even though all this input is coming in, I have the input of the visual symbols and the auditory and various emotional, but I have one cohesive version of Duvid functioning in the greater world, where I have the narrative, my internal thought narrative, while at the same time the cognitive processes of interpreting all the sensory information that's around. So chess is a very good precursor for understanding you're just reading the comments here. Yeah, so chess is a very good precursor for understanding thought formation, how the mind forms thought, and because it's very simple pattern recognitions. Is I've taught now hundreds of kids how to play the game from scratch, starting with simple thing like how to move the pieces. There are only 6 pieces that have simple geometric patterns versus piece coordinations, coordinating pieces together to accomplish something like what is checkmate, and then much more complicated patterns that involve opening repertoires and these various things. And so the program's been very successful, and just to put that together with a greater understanding of how the brain forms cognition in terms of there's multiple sensory inputs coming to me at the same time. So my vision, auditory, smell, touch, taste, various things that all form at the exact same time to give a cohesive vision of my interpretation of what exists in the world. And we talk about dissonance, the disconnect, where my interpretation of what the world is like is actually a mismatch to what the world in actuality is. So if it's walking around and yeah, I don't have a comment on those movies. I don't know. I mean, if it's walking around and you're saying, okay, like I don't want to bump into a chair or bump into an object, or just coordination, like making the flowers or something, like a certain form of coordination where I'm able to successfully interact with my environment because there's cohesion and coordination between the way I observe and interpret the world to be and the way it actually is. And that's similar on the chessboard, where you try to formulate a plan and checkmate your opponent by using multiple pieces to coordinate an attack. And so this is a really pretty basic um, thought formation. And so I've been thinking about this for a year. I've been studying. I think I've got myself up to date. Like I watched this last year's consciousness conference, and Hamarov and the various thought leaders on the hard problem of consciousness, and the Chalmers and the various figures. So I think I have a pretty good feel for the current level of what does humanity know about how consciousness is formed, what the historic philosophers thought. And I've done that on my channel, going back from the ancients, Aristotle, the Greeks, through the Enlightenment till today, with the modern science and the weekly program Church of Entropy. And I've been reading scientific papers all the time. And also I'm doing like the Ask the Rabbi, to take the metaphysical approach of how the various sages or religious people approached explaining the phenomenon of consciousness. And I have more study sessions coming up on Ask the Rabbi on the soul and reincarnation, which will be more a Judaic approach to answer these questions, but on a practical level of the measurement of teaching kids how to play chess is very useful for greater thought formation of what does it mean to understand the world. What is the process we go through by? And if it's purely mechanical, if you're saying that really we're just a material machine through neurons, or even quantum mind, which will be interesting, the implications of quantum mind, or there's a soul. These processes could be understood possibly either way. It might not make a difference, that the process for how the mind works, whether it's mechanistic or spiritual, may not change the reality that the process could be explained whichever way the evidence points to. And I have the book down, Game Changer, about the new AlphaZero. I'm still reading it. It's pretty complicated, at least the chess in the various approaches, where AlphaZero had just the rules of the game programmed into it without any human input on strategy, as where computers historically had programmed into it opening books in various insight from the top players. And the AlphaZero, without any input from the human mind, just the rules of the game in trial and error, was able to beat the top level computers. And then analyzing these games between the top computers like Stockfish and versus AlphaZero. So I'm still in the middle of reading that, and that's interesting. Your thought pattern. And people have just random questions or posts. You probably keep that to my Discord. So this is just a ramble. I'm trying to collect my own thoughts together, because I do this every week, and a lot of it's repetitive, just teaching the rules of the game, basic mating with a king and queen, opening repertoire, resetting up pieces, and a lot of it's bureaucratic, but I'm trying to collect together my thoughts. And from my chess coaching, you kind of like pedagogic experiments on how children form thought. So, we have various ages of kids. Let me try walking around, see if I lose reception again. We have various ages of children, and you're like Piaget or Freudian or the various thought considerations of how the mind forms thought. Um, what's this exhibit on baseball? I guess this is the new exhibit on baseball. Interesting. They got a whole bunch of old baseball cards here. Pretty cool. These are some old baseball cards they have on display here at the museum. Ty Cobb. Just random walking Ty Cobb baseball cards. Going back, authentic signed balls. So I didn't know this is a temporary display, one of the old baseball mitts and bats and various things. So this is just the current display they have here. Kind of cool, the chess program here in the museum. But I mean, you take a very young capable of learning how to move the chess pieces, because it's just 6 different pieces that have simple geometric patterns, and kind of like being a purpose-driven person. Yeah, being a purpose-driven person, and what's the purpose of the game? The purpose of the game is checkmate. First, just understanding how the pieces move, to trying to use the pieces for a purpose of coordinating together for checkmate in the various ages. So, sometimes we have kids that are, pretty young, 3-4 years old, they could learn the game. Usually come like older, 6, and we focus mostly on middle school children. By middle school, people could clearly, and maybe have to review my Piaget or child development studies to try to have a clear understanding of these different levels and how it connects to chess or concentration levels. So it is the end of the year. I'm trying to coordinate my thinking, and even if I don't come to any great discoveries, I'm just going to keep on coaching. Kids are doing well. We'll probably keep on winning the state championships and competing nationally. And I'm going to continue my research on consciousness, hard problem of consciousness, spirituality. I'm going to do some more Ask the Rabbi streams. I don't know much about Kubrick. I know he made movies. I could think of a few maybe that I saw, but I'm not a big movie guy. So, sorry, no comment on that. So I appreciate people tuning in. So you see, next week we'll have a full house again, and you'll be a lot of opportunity teaching and coaching a lot of chess. Hopefully some more advanced activities. So I've strengthened myself. I put myself back on chess.com, got myself up to kind of like expert play, so I'll be able to coach some of the stronger players we have here that will be coming back with the school year. And I'm going to, keep on doing what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a long time now, and, thank God I enjoy doing it. Had a lot of success doing it. It's here in the museum, positive thing. And I'm going to try to connect and coordinate what I'm doing here to furthering studies and things that I find interesting, like consciousness, the hard problem of consciousness, how the brain performs thought, how people learn how to think, and various topics. So I guess that's about it. I'm going to call it a day, and Sabbath is coming, Shabbat Shalom. Hopefully next week I'm going to do my Ask the Rabbi. I think it's up to number 10, and that Ask the Rabbi is going to be on the origins of Goy, of the Gentile Jew distinction. It'll go in line with some of what I've done on half Jews and intermarriage, where um, there's been changes in different historical periods of how these things were considered. So I've done a lot of research. I've read through it a few times. I'm almost ready to make my presentation, so I might lose reception. I'm going to walk back downstairs. You see, I'll cut through the museum, and people tuning in, I'm glad you're here. You could see this is my regular weekly activity. I've been doing it for a while. You could see on my YouTube, Facebook, the activities, and it's been extremely rewarding producing state champions. And it's an honor to be part of this program, volunteer activity, give back, and have it affect, be part of the museum. My mother representing the museum in the big deal in Detroit, and some extent helping save the museum. So this is I think this is one of the more valuable paintings here at Bruegel. This 1566 Bruegel the Elder, the Wedding Dance. This is one of the more famous paintings here in the museum. A lot of interesting stuff here. It's just good to walk the aisles of the museum relatively frequently. It's a good place for the chess club, so kids learn how to use their mind, get a feel of history, see history of art, be cultured. The Christian section, so I'll just keep on rambling while I walk back to it'll be daylight savings time, and the clock will get earlier, so we'll see what my schedule here is in the winter. I haven't been going to the synagogue that much just because they've kind of changed how it's ran, so it's not as interesting to me anymore to go to the synagogue. Like, my source isn't really needed there. So back to work, and a lot of thoughts coordinating. It's kind of hard to ramble. I'm developing the skill. Like, I kind of learned from Luke Ford, just this kind of streaming mentality, what it's like to ramble and just monologue. So I'm, getting better at that, and I'm going to try to give some of these flowers away. So, very proud of my flowers. I've been gardening, making these. It's about under 70 degrees again, so it could be that these are going to be some of the last flowers. There you go. Okay, so signing off. Shabbat Shalom. Everyone have a great weekend, and take care, everyone. Take care.